You know, I am very curious.
Illuminating television.
Pictures. The studio starts off with two founders, Steve Oakes and Peter Rosenthal. The collab would be under Broadcast Arts in 1981 and would be doing commercials for MTV as their first commission. Under Fred Seibert, the studio would see success and would then get commissioned by Cinemax, WPLJ, ABC, and Showtime. As the success grew, the studio would change the name to Open Studios and would then be commissioned to do Pee-wee's Playhouse for its first season. The studio would then rename itself to Curious Pictures in 1993. Curious Pictures would then get 3 additional associates, Susan Holden, Richard Winkler, and David Starr. The 5 would then get a studio out in Lower Manhattan, New York. Curious would then be separated into 2 departments, cell and computer animation. The studio would then expand in San Francisco, California to do television animation. Fast forward to 1998, Curious Pictures would create their first IP for HBO Family, A Little Curious. If you guys are looking for that specific segment, I already did it for this video. Now, why am I not doing it for this one? Because I'm not going to be redundant. Paving the way for HBO Family to create the Jam Block, while 2 creators would join under the Curious family.
I know that for myself, I am always trying to make 49% of the book, and I want the audience to make 51%.
Mo was born in the Des Plaines neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. During his childhood, he would draw for his family, which would receive light criticism to not hurt his feelings at the time. However, would take it as a sign to get better at drawing and making people laugh. He would later in life graduate from the Tisch School of the Arts and start his career drawing and creating animation for Sesame Street in 1993. He would receive 6 Emmy Awards during his time on the show. Later on, would retire from Sesame Street to create 2 shows for the 2 major animation networks.
They cool. They the Offbeats.
Curious Pictures would take on Mo to create The Offbeats for Nickelodeon, a short slapstick comedy about a group of outcasts being pranked by a group of kids called the Populars, narrated by Mo Willems himself as the character Grubby Grow. The pilot would be made for Nickelodeon as a standalone show called The Misfits, which would be then nominated for a Cable Ace Award, which would make Nick want to greenlight it as a show. However, decided to put the short in the multi-animated anthology show Kablam. The Offbeats was a shorter Peanuts-esque show as it had kids of different ailments and their dealings with being pranked by the Populars, ultimately to lose in the end to the Offbeats. After some time on Kablam, it would move off to be its own short without being on the show, as Kablam was branching off shows such as Action League Now and Angela Anaconda to be standalone shows. The shorts would appear on the Nickelodeon block for its 2 to 4 minute runtime. It would have 2 seasons and a Valentine's Day special. Mo would eventually leave Nickelodeon to move over to Cartoon Network to do this show after the cancellation of the Offbeats.
Sheep in the big city.
The cartoon Mo would create after the Offbeats was Sheep in the Big City. After the cancellation, Mo would create the pilot for Cartoon Network, which would be aired on Cartoon Summer on August 18th of 2000, along with up-and-coming pilots Grim and Evil, or The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. Out of 10 pilots to be aired at the time, only 3 shows were greenlit, and only 2 were made in-house by Cartoon Network, while Curious Pictures would be made out of house. All 3 shows aired on November 17th of 2000. The main premise of the show was a sheep running from a government experiment to the big city in hopes of not being captured by the general, while also pursuing his poodle love interest. It would also have commercial breaks in between the show for slapstick. Sheep in the Big City would only last 2 seasons during the rise of Cartoon Network primetime, as viewership was very low. But this would eventually make Mo team up with the second animator responsible for Curious Pictures.
That is just really about music, like, and the kindergarten experience and all those emotions that come with it. Has been really exciting.
Mr. Warburton was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and would later in life study graphic design in Kutztown University. The early work of Tom would go back to Buzzco Associates for independent films and shorts, such as A Warm Reception in LA. After his time at Buzzco, would then join Jumbo Pictures to create Nickelodeon's Doug as the assistant layout artist and animator in '91. Fast forward to '92, Warburton would go to J.J. Salmander Productions and animate for different commercial brands such as 7-Up, Slim Jim, and Lee Levi's. He would also be head animator for Saturday Night Live and Schoolhouse Rock. Warburton would then collab on Beavis and Butthead. During his time on the cartoon, would then meet Sue Rose, would then become lifelong friends, and use the same animation styles in the future. In '95, Warburton along with Sue Rose would then come up with the concept of the show Pepper Ann as a freelancer. Originally, Pepper Ann was meant for Nickelodeon. However, Nick would reject the pilot script and Disney Animation Television would pick up the series. The show would air for 4 seasons on Disney's One Saturday Morning and One 2 and would end in 2001. After Pepper Ann, Tom Warburton would create the classic Cartoon Network show. Kids Next Door's pilot script started as Kenny and the Chimp, which was originally going to be made by Hanna-Barbera. Early KND villains, Professor XXL, was an early character to reoccur in the pilot, while the kids next door were referred to as, quote, those kids next door, and were seen as troublemakers rather than secret agents fighting adult tyranny. The pilot, Diseasy Does It, was liked by Cartoon Network, but after 2 more pilot scripts, Cartoon Network would not go through with making Kenny and the Chimp as a series. After this, Tom would make the concept of Kids Next Door into a series where the kids were secret agents rather than troublemakers. The pilot script No P in the Ool was aired as one of the scripts for Cartoon Summer. Under revolt from both viewers and executives, codenamed Kids Next Door would become a series with 6 seasons and 3 specials.
We're on our way, the mission of the day starts when we say rocket, rocket!
Little Einsteins was made after the buyout of the Baby Einstein Company. Disney, along with Curious Pictures, would be in production of The Little Einsteins in November 2001. Little Einsteins was meant to be targeted at a preschool audience and teach them classical music and art pieces in each episode. The children Leo, Annie, Quincy, and June go in their rocket ship named Rocket to solve problems. The show would run for 2 seasons while getting a Game Boy Advance game in 2006. Curious Pictures' last production was Team Umizoomi from January 5, 2010 to April 24th of 2015, with 4 seasons, making Team Umizoomi the second longest running show from Curious, second to codename Kids Next Door. After this, nothing. That's it. This is usually the part of the video where I tell you how they shut down and what's wrong with the company, but that's just it. I don't want to give my audience misinformation like that, because then I get a myriad of you in the comment section going, well, actually, the company, don't think that you guys don't do that. But doing some further research, there were a few reasons why. One reason was because of a 2003 pilot cartoon failing to make back any revenue and putting hardship on Curious Pictures onward. Shows such as Kids Next Door would keep them afloat, but after some time, Cartoon Network would put a strain on the production of the show, thus ending ties with Curious Pictures. Because most shows from Curious would not last 2 seasons outside of Team Umizoomi and Kids Next Door, the company would fail to keep up with other animation studios, which would ultimately make Curious Pictures disband in 2014 and end up closing in 2015. Again, these are, in my opinion, theories that I had to find, but if some Curious Pictures employees find this video, hey, let us know, okay? Because I did try to reach out. Now, one more bonus for you guys, and yes, it has everything to do with codename Kids Next Door. After Operation Interviews, we see Nigel Uno get selected as the Galactic Kids Next Door after various tests and trials during seasons 3 and 4. It wasn't hinted, but number 1 was kept on profile by the secret organization at the time known as the Splinter Cell. After Nigel loses Lizzie in Operation Girlfriend, it was hinted that number 1 would eventually get a higher calling beyond the Kids Next Door, and then again in Operation Treaty, it was known that Nigel Uno would eventually be taken away to join a higher rank in the Kids Next Door rather than keep fighting missions locally. The last episode served as a testament to how the team of Sector V was questioning their friendship, having a come-to-Jesus moment to one day growing up and being decommissioned, and how they failed each time to take the delightful children from down the lane's cake, which became a heartwarming end to the saga to always remain a kid at heart, and no matter how old they get, the team will always remain friends, no matter if they are light years apart. Now, why does any of this matter? Well, ever since the season finale, every fan of Kids Next Door wanted to have a sequel for the main show series, and I'm here to break your heart today. It's never happening in this lifetime. Although Curious Pictures is responsible for the show, the IP belongs to Cartoon Network itself. With Cartoon Network Studios being shut down in Burbank, California, we must not forget that Warner Bros. And Discovery are now merged together, making Cartoon Network Studios under Warner Brothers Animation. With the current state of Warner Bros., I asked the audience, would you really want a Galactic Kids Next Door being made by Warner Brothers? Would you really? Although Tom Warburton has played around with the idea, I personally think that it would be better if it was fan-made. Warner Bros. Is bringing down all of its major players and networks. Cartoon Network itself is on its last legs, with Adult Swim coming in at a hot second. With most shows moving over to Max and many Cartoon Network titles have been removed with no question, one must ask, is it even worth it? That's it, rant over. Can't wait to have the discussion with you guys in the comment section. Curious had a good run when it was around. The problem was the short season that many cartoons had, except for 2 productions that it had under its belt. Curious wasn't a stranger to making investments to help further the brand. However, over-investing and not getting a return of investment was the beginning of the end. Although they made a breakthrough with Kids Next Door and Team Umizoomi, it wasn't enough to keep Curious alive. The art style itself was a mixture and only did well with a specific niche audience. Curious would go the way of Klasky Supo, only having a specific style and not being able to evolve the style to meet demand. But just like Klasky Supo was able to, in its time, be remembered for doing unorthodox methods of animation. Despite the theories on how it shut down, I'd still love to hear from the Curious Pictures team themselves. If you know anybody from the Curious team, let us know they've been staged.